back to the Profit Roadmap. As always, we're your hosts, Ryan and Bekah, and this is the premier podcast created for field service pros to help you grow your business, stay on top of the latest trends, and help you provide even more value to the communities that you serve. So today, we're super excited to welcome Brandon Smith and Chad Starkey from Venture. VensureHR is a company that provides HR services and technology to simplify tasks, manage risks, and streamline the HR process for small to mid-sized businesses. Brandon, Chad, welcome to Profit Roadmap. How's it going?
Welcome in, guys.
It's going very well. Very well. Thank you for having us today.
Absolutely. Super glad to have you guys here today. Talking about HR is something that we've done a couple of times, and it's always a super hot topic because it's something that everybody struggles with. So I'm super excited to have you guys here. We've got some questions for you guys. I think it's going to be super cool.
Excellent. Well, we're ready for them.
All right, sweet. So to dive in, Brandon and Chad, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about y'all's background, how you guys got into Venture?
Brandon?
So I started my career in education and had moved up through education, planning through that, earning my master's, my doctorate. The plan was to move into more leadership roles. And last year, to keep a long story short, I had some wonderful mentors around me. I thought the plan was to continue, and under some wonderful mentorship, the plan for me and my skill set and what I love doing and my family led to the path of being able to be on the team here with Chad over at Venture, and just some really special ways that everything was weaved together as part of my story, being part of the team. So last year, had the pleasure of hopping on board and being able to sync some of those leadership educational roles of learning and development kind of into what I do now in communication. It's been a ton of fun to be able to kind of merge that together to be able to help businesses. There's a lot of education and communication involved here. So it's a blessing to be able to find ways to be helpful now for business owners opposed to, students in the classroom.
That's super cool. How about you, Chad?
Awesome.
So my father started his first PEO, which is one of the things that we do, in 1984. I joined in 1992, and I've either been in a leadership role or running a PEO or selling for, since 1992. And now, a few years back, I visited with one of our divisional partners and came on board, and we merged with Venture. And it has been very interesting because over the years, I always had a vision of what a company like ours should look like, and they are doing it all, doing every bit of it.
Wonderful.
And being able to see how many businesses that I've worked with and helped over the years, and then adding to that product with Venture now, it's just incredible.
Yeah, can't ask for more than that. That's awesome.
No.
All right, so let's crack straight into it. First question I got here for you guys. One of the things that keeps coming up anytime that we talk to our clients is the labor market. So finding and keeping good employees is a challenge that everybody in the trades is struggling with right now. With y'all's position in the market and everything, what's your experience with all that stuff? What are you guys seeing from your perspective?
We see that it is a growing trend that employers are competing for the same employees. Employees are still controlling the market. With wage inflation feeding it, employers have to be very intentional and creative around their offerings and packages to be able to attract that talent. They have to compete for that, requiring employers to be really smart in not only what they offer, but how they communicate as well. And I know specifically with this industry, you have to be very intentional with that.
Gotcha.
Jobs are abundant right now, and employees are abundant. So being competitive today is key in recruiting and retaining that top talent that you're looking for.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that service companies can do to have that competitive edge or to present themselves in such a way that makes them attractive?
in more of the micro small businesses, labor markets, what we've found is that one type of compensation is not necessarily the answer for everyone in these small businesses. There are certain drivers that create that retention that might not be traditional. It might be getting smart around what those options are and getting to know the employees. I found that the employers who know their employees well, like one-to-one, spending time with them, knowing more about their personal life, knowing what drives them, is going to know what's going to attract and retain. So what I found is that employers ultimately need to know that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to compensation and attracting talent. It is knowing the type of individuals you want to hire, knowing who you have, and making sure that you are customizing that compensation model from pay to benefits, 401k, to what is tailored best for those employees.
Now, there's a multitude of different ways that employees look at things. So maybe it's the salary is their key, right? Or maybe there's some their benefits are key because they have a family or they plan on having a family. If you don't have a good combination of benefit program, wage, and somewhat of a culture there, you're going to find that some people will come on board because you have a great salary, but you know what? We don't have those benefits. So those that are really benefit focused, they're not going to come on board. And you may miss out on some opportunities there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to ask, like, if there were, like, you listed some like specific factors on what's driving the labor market and issue right now with people finding good employees. You listed off a lot of good reasons with benefits, culture. I know it's a big one, 401k. I feel like, so if a company who's kind of like stuck in the old ways of doing things, like what should they do? Like what would be their first step? Like maybe like speaking to people like yourselves or going online to really understand like what is the market like right now?
Now, there's several ways that they can do things. Talking to a company like ours is one, because we take a very consultative approach. We offer a multitude of benefit programs, as well as we can help them understand what the employees need to be paid or what benefit programs meet their area, because y'all have clients all over the United States, right? We have clients all over the world, not only in over 17 countries, but in all 50 states. And with that, there's certain regulations. I mean, some states mandate that you have to have a retirement plan. Okay, well, a lot of times in states where they're like, hey, we mandate a retirement plan, they'll take, okay, well, what's the minimum I have to do? Because I don't want to spend a lot of money here. But what they don't realize is there are other companies they're competing with for that talent. For instance, 401k. Some may say, I'm going to put a 401k in place and I'm mandated to do a 2% match, right? Okay, well, they do a 2% match. But their competitor down the street says, well, we're going to do a safe harbor, like a 4% match, something along those lines. And when an employee goes, well, I'm getting paid the same here, but my 401k match is higher over here, typically they're going to go to where that 401k match is higher. So having that multitude of benefit programs can really help you. And having a consultant like us come in and walk through what you have now and what needs to be in place to help you compete in the market is key.
Absolutely.
Brandon, you said something about having your benefits packages, I'll say compensation is at a more broad level, sort of tailored to the people that work at your company is something that's super crucial. And I love that. I think that's awesome. Do you guys see, especially with like Gen Z coming into the workforce, do you guys see that like their preferences towards certain compensation packages and stuff is vastly different from that of previous generations? Or what does that look like for you guys?
I see. When you mentioned that in the world of conversation that I'm in, I'm thinking about the remote nature of employment and how significant that is becoming, which I know is a little different than service businesses as we're talking about here, which is something that we specialize in serving, that our model takes care of. When it comes to the type of businesses that we're talking about, those micro, small businesses, service businesses, what we've found when I was talking more about the customization of it, it was some people might think, if I offer a full benefits health employee offering and I blow the bank for that, then that's going to be the answer to my question, the answer to my problems. But what they found is some employees, certain companies aren't interested in a full comprehensive medical benefit program. Some just need a tailored, customized health solution that may not be as full as maybe another company, certain type of employee need is. And what that allows, it allows more maneuverability for the employer to be able to provide compensation for employees. And it allows the employer to communicate to the employee that I hear you. So that is more of what I meant with the specific needs of those employees in this type of field, in the service industry.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it's definitely where knowing the people that work for you can be a significant boon.
Yeah,
definitely.
So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk training. What are some things that bosses could do to help their team members to get better at their jobs without having to shell out a ton of cash?
This morning I was on a call with a service company, and he was talking about his time, and how hard it is to get out of the office, or for leaders to sometimes get out of the office. And this is where my education history and my learning collides with what you're asking here. You know how many times principals and leaders in school wish they could be in the classroom more because they recognize the personal touch with the teacher, the personal touch with the students is drastic in relational development when they can get there. But so many times they say, I just can't get out of the office.
Yeah.
It's same truth with a small business. If you can be intentional of blocking off time to be out of your office, creating a parallel situation of being in the classroom, which you're talking about learning and development, to be helping those leader mentors, the teachers, and to be helping more of those learners, the newer ones, the students, in bringing that together and developing systems and communication in that space. I think it's just a really beautiful parallel between the two.
Yeah, I've never tackled it from that perspective, so that's very insightful. I like that a lot.
When leaders get in the field and show a real interest, and they have that genuine concern for the growth of their employee, and quite frankly, their company, you can see a difference in an organization. I spend a lot of time with my team as a leader to help them grow, because we touch so much for businesses, because we're basically taking the non-revenue producing functions as it relates to employees away from that and allowing the owners, the bosses, the leaders to get in the field and to do more focus on growing their business and the net revenue producing activities. That's what my role is to work with my team to help them grow their W-2. So if someone works with us, they're able to take time back in their day that they were focused on all those administrative things that they do on a regular basis. And now I can shift and focus on my people and growing my business. That's one of the keys that we bring to the table.
Love that.
I love that. And just kind of from just talking about training, maybe from a different perspective, like from HR standpoint, is that saying still true where it's like it costs more money to have to bring on a new employee, invest in the training and getting them up and running? So like take the time that you can to like really put that effort in and not lose that employee that you just gained.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, you're talking thousands of dollars to bring a new employee on. Then you invest not only wage, but time, which is money. And then
right,
you may have training that you're putting them through, you're paying for. And
right.
then if you're not continually investing in that relationship with the employee to help that grow and to help them grow as a person and as an employee of your company, and they ultimately go down the street because someone has a different benefit program, whatever it might be, it's just that gets expensive.
Right.
And that's why putting a comprehensive program in place to give you time back is key for employers, leaders, everybody.
Absolutely. And look, with your clients, have you had moments where when they come in and they're struggling with HR, they're struggling with employees, um, do you have like solutions as far as like softwares, things that they can do to help train their staff or just stay up in the know of what they need to do?
Well, our is part of our solution. There's a technology solution that comes alongside what you're talking about, and then an HR support solution that comes alongside. And they're not siloed. They work in tandem together for the client.
Right.
So on the technology side, what we're providing with our clients is live handbook, live HR support and training, customizable, but adaptive for the client and where the client and their employees are located. And that is leveraged, or that is brought in together hand in hand with our clients' HR support specialists. So they are being proactive versus reactive. And as changes are being made, whether the law is coming down, those are being addressed with the clients hand in hand so that when things come into place, the clients are prepared. Same thing with the handbook. You talk about what the variety looks like. There are clients that we will serve that haven't touched the handbook lately or not appropriately, or handled documentation, legal documentation appropriately, and they are coming alongside and using the technology alongside the client, the HR support, proactively helping put all of that together for them.
A lot of that's tied to our learning management system as well. So there's lots of classes. I mean, most states mandate a yearly harassment training, right?
Mhm.
And so having access to that, and as well as other skill-based trainings that they can take, is key, because that again goes back to helping grow your employees, and then it's really just investing back in your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've handbooks have come up a couple times on the podcast, and
Hmm.
usually it's they can be chaotic.
I mean, we
I'm
call so when you're working with us in our system, and we call it a living document,
I
yeah,
like that.
because
for
the
sure.
handbook goes into it. Well, all 50 states are different, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So if the handbook is in there, this system has an AI base that will go and make suggestions, and it'll make, hey, you have to have this in your handbook, right? Because that's part of our job, is to keep our clients compliant with local, state, and federal regulations, right? So we make sure that that handbook is consistently updated, not only through the software, but as Brandon said, with our HR team. Because you're not just relying on the software, we have a team behind it, because you still need a human touch for the human resources, right?
Right.
And so that system will actually make sure that you could literally hire someone today. A change has to be implemented overnight, and tomorrow that handbook will be different, because it's a living document and changes are made on the fly. So, and that also again ties into that learning management system. It's all one nice system that we have.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly convenient.
Yes, it is.
So I'm sure you guys are saving people not only time, money, and but a lot of headache. So
Yes,
on
a lot
behalf
of
of
headaches.
the business owners out there, thank you. Are there any? So let's talk about some HR processes for a second. So like payroll, benefits. There's a ton of stuff that goes into HR. Uh, are there any of the processes that you guys find that can be automated? You mentioned the handbook. Or is there other stuff that could be handled that way?
I'll kind of give it to you in two different perspectives, and I know Chad will kind of give some really good perspective in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I think of is a quick little story of a recent client, and he said, "Brandon, I'm in this business. I created this business because I'm built to grow things. I'm built to take things, create it, and grow it. I do not have time to deal with these tactical responsibilities that you just mentioned, that you had just mentioned, as required as part of having a business. Because I'm going to grow it. The tactical responsibilities have to be taken care of." He says, "I'm not built for that. That's not my thing. Well, I want to spend my time here. I want you to spend the time over on those tactical responsibilities." And so that is where things become a great fit, is allowing employers, business owners, entrepreneurs to be able to spend more time back where they originated on those strategic responsibilities. So that's kind of one perspective. The other perspective is, those employers, they got into business, like I said with the one example, for a variety of reasons, whether it's to grow a business, to be the best, to be number one. Maybe it's to leverage their experience to build deep roots in community, or maybe to become the employer of choice because they just value people and they want to be that in the community. And what we found is that these employers, these entrepreneurs, they're blessed. They go to bed and they wake up, and upon waking up, they have employees. And with those employees, we have moved from those strategic responsibilities over to the tactical. And with the tactical responsibilities, we have payroll and taxes, workers' comp, healthcare benefits, compliance, and the laundry list of alphabet soup that is associated with compliance.
Right.
And we call that noise. And that noise reverberates up into the leadership employer table. And in attempt to quiet that noise, the business leaders, entrepreneurs, they go out to attempt to form strategic partnerships, whether it is, as you had mentioned, for payroll, for benefits, for supplement, time and labor solutions, legal, cybersecurity is becoming more of a thing. You talked about generations and where we're moving. Cybersecurity is becoming more of a thing. HR. And what we found is each one of these attempted solutions are actually creating silos. What we found is they often don't talk well together. And each one of these attempted partnerships requires additional people and additional money. And so what's happened is in an attempt to quiet the noise, we have found that sometimes employers have accidentally compounded the noise. And so what we're doing in the solutions that you mentioned a variety of solutions here. What we're wanting to do is to bring everything under a single sign-on source, whether it's the technology and the support, not a 1-800 number wondering where things are going to be and who's going to catch you up. Single sign-on philosophy of tech and support, to have a seat at the table, to be able to address the majority of those tactical responsibilities that allow the business owner employer to go back and move from 75%, 80% of tactical, remember, can't get out of his office conversation earlier, to now being able to go back and spend a majority of his time back in the strategic nature and let us run those partnerships brought together under a unified solution, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
You're literally taking the life cycle of an employee and automating the majority of it.
Oh, wow. That's
so
pretty big.
From recruiting,
ton of time right there,
to applicant tracking, to onboarding, which people don't talk enough about, that recruiting and applicant tracking, for instance. Okay, that's part of this whole getting them into the payroll system. Well, how much time do they spend recruiting people? How are they tracking them? Well, there's more time. Having interviews. Then we take them from the applicant tracking system, and now they're, okay, well, I need you to fill this form out, so that you can become an employee, right? Now I got to house the forms somewhere. We automate all of that. And it's literally, when you go from applicant tracking into our onboarding, you click a button and it rolls it into onboarding. The employee fills their information out. All of that's online. The only thing the employer has to do is verify the I-9s because that's required. Then it rolls right into payroll and you're off and running. That's how simple it is to bring an employee on in an automated system. And they talk to each other, which makes it so easy. And then, of course, your benefits are administered in that same system. Your HR is administered in that same system. So like Brandon said, we're taking all of these tasks, these silos that don't talk to each other. We're automating that. You still have people because you have a full team of people that you get by working with an organization like ours. But most of this is seamless. It makes it easy. And it takes that 75% of the time that they were where they were working on the payroll, the benefits, work comp, HR, and all the alphabet soup there, and it shifts it. So now we're able to spend the majority of that time focused on growing my business, growing my employees, and realizing the dream that you were looking for when you started that business.
Absolutely. That's a huge like weight off the shoulders, especially for service businesses, because I know Ryan and I, when we talk to people when we're in training, that's a huge component of getting set up in our softwares. Is getting your employees in, all of the numbers, all the data, so that takes up a huge chunk of their time, and your time is such a commodity as a field service business. That's what you're saying.
It is.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to hire a team of people just to run that aspect of it. So being able to bring someone in to handle it and free those people up to be able to work on things that are more important to the business to grow it is, I think, very, very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You go out and you get, your payroll company and your benefits and your workers' comp, and you've got these people that now you're hiring people to manage those things, right?
Yeah.
One of our core philosophies here at Explore is to make life simple. So
yes.
applause to you guys for doing that. So you guys do a great job at it.
Like I said, over the years, I've seen this industry really evolve. And back in the day, it wasn't like that. I will tell you, we didn't automate. We didn't have those things. I got back into it when we were literally printing checks on a dot matrix printer, and then the signature was done on a separate machine, right?
Yep.
And nothing talked to each other. It was getting cards and typing it in. And it's funny, I literally walk into businesses today in service industries, and they're still using time cards. And they're handwritten.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then you go and look at the HR files, and they're keeping the W-4 and the I-9 and all the medical documents all in one folder. That's a huge no-no, right? Yeah. Big deal. And there's fines associated with that, but they don't know. I mean, from a regulatory standpoint, that's our job, to help keep our clients compliant so that they, again, going back to something Brandon said earlier, they're proactive, not reactive to those issues that will arise, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's that our industry has changed, and the technology that we have, and we're blessed because we have a CEO who is a technology mind. Alex Campos. He literally codes in 10 languages, and not only then, how many CEOs of a company like ours that services 3 to 4 million employees worldwide would actually still be coding some of the stuff on his own, because he's still got hands-on. He wants to see it a certain way, but we're blessed to have that because we have evolved, and we are a disruptor in the industry for sure. And it's really neat to see. And it's also awesome to be a part of it.
For sure. Yeah. Having leadership that has the vision and the capability is awesome.
Oh, yes.
So for sure. So here's a question that I've got for you guys. Kind of going back to benefits. What are some things so sometimes smaller businesses are like, man, I just can't compete with the bigger guys. Everybody wants good work benefits, but how might smaller service businesses compete with bigger companies in the aspect of benefits and stuff. But do they have certain advantages that come with being a smaller business? Brandon, you said knowing your employees, it's obviously easier if there are fewer people in them. What's y'all's perspective on that?
So that is part of being a client on board at Venture. So there is the leverage. There is a leverage of being able to pool together for sizable advantages when it comes to going to market for benefits, insurance, 401k, and some really special ancillary products that are often brought in more for these type of businesses that we're discussing, where it takes a type of creativity and strategicness. I don't even think that's a word. I don't know. I'm not sure.
We can make it a word.
The doctorate in education, strategic.
Oh, good thing I didn't go to school. It allows us two things: the horsepower under the hood, or what is being built in the garage, is significant and allows us to have some real power behind what we can provide. But it allows us, when we're working with smaller businesses, it allows us to be agile, being able to move, and not being a one size fits all solution. That is kind of one of the pieces that makes us different. Is while we do have the horsepower to bring it regarding benefits, we can also get really creative and agile because our focus here is working on these smaller businesses, recognizing that if they're going to retain this talent, and we want to continue to serve these employers long term, we want to be very strategic with what they're offering, what they're bringing to the table financially, and how it's going to work for the long game.
So, especially when you're coming into the benefit realm, so everybody wants good benefits,
Right.
okay? And when you're talking about a smaller company competing with a larger company, that's where we can bring advantages. So we have what we call master health plans, and that master health plan has several thousand employees in it. With that, what does that mean? Well, we have the management behind it. With those several thousand employees, we're able to bring rates in some scenarios that they could not get in a small market on their own. And our benefit system will manage that so it makes it easy, right? But then, again, going back to what I said earlier about being a consultant, that may not be the best fit for a small business. So with the ACA, or some people have called it Obamacare, you had these pools created in states, and they underwrite differently. It may be more advantageous for these companies to go to that pool rather than look to a master plan. We can flex that way. We're not just, you have to use our health plan. We want to do what's best for the client and put them in the most advantageous situation. But it's also developing a long-term plan. So a lot of times people come in and they get, well, here's my benefits, here's your benefit program, and here's your cost. And then next year, what happens? It goes up. And sometimes it goes up a lot. That's because there's no plan in place to downtrend that healthcare cost year over year. Now, I don't mean you're going to get low rates every year, or it's going to go, you're going to have a decrease. I mean, keeping an increase manageable because of certain tools we put in place and education we do with employees, because that is one failure across the board. They don't educate employees properly on the usage of the health benefits, what's available, or they don't have access to the tools like we bring so that they can downtrend that healthcare cost. Additionally, from a 401k standpoint, one of the clients that Brandon put on, they had 17 employees. And when we looked at the difference in the asset management fee that they were paying, so that's a percentage they pay on a regular basis in that 401k every year. And by the way, I'm not a 401k expert, but numbers are what they are. They were paying near 2.5% for that fund management fee. Well, that came out of the 401k and went right to the company managing it. When Venture put our 401k in place, we saved them $20,000 a year on 17 employees in that fund. So that meant more money stayed in the 401k so that the employees could grow their money faster. And that's because of the size of our 401k compared to those that, they may have 17 employees and they may only have, $600,000-$700,000 in their 401k. We have several million.
Mm-hmm.
So our management fees are lower. So that's kind of that law of large numbers. The more we have in there, the better we're going to look, right? And it works out very well for our clients.
Yeah, that's definitely a distinct advantage.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
One of the things that service companies is workers' compensation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be a high cost.
Yeah.
So we have a multitude of workers' comp programs to put our clients into across the nation. And again, we have large numbers of employees in those different plans, and we can pass those discounts on to the client. So someone, and I've seen them, this was kind of an extreme example. They were a company that had primarily 8810s, right? That's a clerical employee. A clerical employee at rate, just as an average, is anywhere from 0.08%, okay, of wage to 0.14. We discovered they were paying 1.0.
Whoa.
Significant.
That's a lot
more.
more.
I mean, you're
That
talking
is,
almost
yeah.
10 times more in some instances. But by moving to us and having a true consultative mind there and using our buying power, they saved a significant amount of money.
Absolutely.
They didn't know what they didn't know. And that's where we come in as consultants.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things about human resources is not knowing what you don't know, right? You don't know what questions that you should be asking. You don't know what questions you did or didn't ask. I can relate to it from a software training perspective, but
Yep.
like the world of HR is still a very intimidating one to me. So,
And it's grown.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 70s, you had maybe 2 or 3 regulations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have hundreds.
Yeah,
That's true. Every year it's growing.
How most small business owners can't keep up with that.
Yeah,
they can't. And that's where, you have someone to help you do those things.
Yeah. Another good point of your services is from helping a lot of our customers onboard into like Service Autopilot or FieldEdge, I know there's some struggles with like job costing type of information or their KPIs. So all the things you were just listing off, that's a huge component of what we try to teach them is like, and it depends, it varies on where they live, the states, the country regulation. So like how much you should be like setting up an employee pay or your services and things like that. So this is a great service. You guys are offering to help these companies figure that out.
Job costing is another thing that's part of our software, and it calculates that employee cost, and then you can create a download and upload into a system so that they kind of talk to each other. So you can have that employee cost in there in relation to that labor burden, right?
Yes.
And that's one thing that a lot of employers out there don't understand. I've asked this question many times. What is your budgeted employer burden rate?
A lot don't know.
And they don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can you price a job and not know your true employee burden rate?
Yes.
Because you have your taxes, your work comp, and that employee burden rate isn't just taxes, work comp, the administration of certain things. You've got to go, well, how much am I paying for benefits for my employees in there, right? I mean, what's my match on our 401k? That should all be blended in. I know it costs me, just for easy math, 15% just to have that employee on site. So for every dollar, I'm paying 15% for all of those things, right? Well, then you couple that with, now I know my labor cost. So then we go materials, etc. And now you know what your true cost structure looks like. But many companies don't understand what that labor burden looks like.
No, and sometimes I see people just guess and put random numbers in,
Yep.
and
I've seen some
their
crazy stuff in
reports,
there.
but then their reports are garbage, and so you can't get accurate reporting on revenue and services, and it affects everything. So that's yeah,
And you could be making life-changing business decisions on flawed math,
absolutely.
and it can hurt them.
Absolutely. Bekah, how many times have you gone in and helped somebody out in Service Autopilot and just seen their like labor costs say 0? And they're looking at profitability reports like
Probably
that and
like
high cotton and
huge, like more than 50%.
it's
Yeah,
a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah.
I've seen a lot on the mechanical contracting side inside of FieldEdge. So absolutely, knowing that number is crazy. So for anybody listening, if you don't have that number, go find that number.
Yes.
It's every job you guys do has that number on it times however many hours they're there. So it's an important one to know. Chad, you mentioned regulation over time. So might have been easier back in the day, but today it's there's a lot more stuff you have to dance around.
Yep.
What do you guys think HR is going to look like in the next few years? Do you guys foresee any big changes? Is there anything you're already aware of on the horizon? What's that looking like?
Well, government regulations don't go away.
That's true.
They only add to, right?
We'll agree to that.
So they're going to add and add and add, and there'll be more and there'll be more. But you've also got it at a state level. So states are now, they've always had regulation, but like the mandating of 401ks or a retirement plan. They don't necessarily say you have to have a 401k. You have to have some type of retirement plan. There's some states doing that. One of the most recent that will heavily impact industries is the Secure 2.0 Act.
What's that one
And
about?
one of the key things, and by the way, as of 9 days or 10 days ago, this came in place. And so basically what it did is it said the salary threshold for overtime was raised to $43,888,000, which isn't a very exact number, on July 1st. What that means is anybody making less than that, if they work overtime and their salary, they are no longer overtime exempt. You have to pay them overtime.
Oh, wow.
That's going to go up January 1st of 2025 to $58,656. So now anybody that makes less than $58,000 in salary, you have to pay them overtime. And that's just, they're going to have incremental increases going forward. It's extremely exact numbers. I would love to see where they came up with them.
I'm super curious. They got it down to a penny on those. That's nuts.
Seriously.
But so basically, you're going to hire more people to do less work or pay overtime to get it done.
Right.
And so that's one of the big regulations that just was enacted. It's been coming for a bit, but now it's there. And for instance, so we have a client that had about 20 people this affected out of about 1,000. So they have a lot of hourly employees. But those around 20 people now are they have to pay them overtime. And that means they need to track their hours appropriately, where they didn't have to in the past. Well, the client didn't have a clue. Literally sent an email back going, thank goodness for you guys, because they had no idea. Well, that's an impact on them. Now they've got to really watch that, right? Because in the past it was, these are salaried people where they're just going to work, they're managing the business, they're doing them. You know what? They work 60 hours because they have a vested interest here, whatever it might be. Whoa. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Now you've got to be cognizant of that extra 20 hours that they may have been working, and you got to pay them for it. So that's one of the big regulations that's come into play here recently. But, over the years, you had HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, even further down the road, COBRA. I mean, Family Medical Leave Act. Now some states are taking that and saying, okay, now you have to actually pay them for family medical. So used to, you didn't have to. You could force them to take any PTO that they have. And then the rest of the time that PTO didn't cover was unpaid. Now they're saying it has to be paid in some states. I don't know all the thresholds because it's 50 states. They're all different.
Right.
That's why we have the experts internally to say, okay, it's this state. Here's the rules and regulations you have to adhere to.
Absolutely.
So regulation isn't going away. It's only going to become, there's going to be more.
Do you guys see any impact from AI? This usually comes up in our conversations every podcast, but I feel like with human resources, HR, that's such a personal, human, hands-on touch. But do you see any impact by AI in the future, like short-term, long-term, or is it more of an assist to what you already do?
Tech level with our clients, from how they leverage the applicant tracking system and how they're bringing in talent, the tools that we provide, they're getting to leverage that real time to be able to streamline processes, cut down on their time in communicating with applicants. Excuse me, all the way to the learning management system and the living handbook that we already discussed. Is heavily embedded in those type of systems. So we are wanting to leverage, like you said, as much of that as we can for our clients. It's a win-win, and it cuts down on their time and provides some real efficiencies.
I mean, when you're putting a job out there, you create a job description, right?
Right.
Utilizing the applicant tracking system, it'll literally create the job description for you. The AI will. And then you can edit as you want to. That's hours, right?
True. Yeah.
That we're giving someone back. The same with the handbook. You have your base handbook, say what state I'm in, some, certain things. AI begins to write those things for you and then monitors it on a regular basis. But I think down the road, you're going to see a lot more automation that is AI related.
Okay.
And while AI is relatively young, I don't think we can fathom exactly what all AI is going to do and how it's going to change our world over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's going to be extreme.
It's going to be pretty crazy.
Yes.
It's like,
it is.
An exercise that I like to do sometimes is I'll think about perspective there is try to think about what 1930 looked like to someone in 1900
Right.
and realize we're in the same boat today.
We are in that boat. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, over the last 200 years, the advancements alone in 200 years, think about the next 100 years, the next 20 with the technology and things that we have in place and how the landscape of employment in business, everything is really going to drastically change. And I always say evolve or die. You've got to follow.
You've got to evolve. Yeah.
You've got to learn. And you've got to have people to help you learn.
Yeah. It wasn't too long ago that we couldn't see past steam being the primary mode of transportation, but here we are. I guess if they incorporate AI a lot into HR systems, you guys might become hair professionals.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, when you get too much AI, then where'd you buy from? Oh, well, AI sold it to me. Right? You walk into a car dealer, you tell them what they want, and the AI is the one that gives you the jacked up price.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get somebody at a car dealership on it the next one. We'll talk to them about that.
Gosh, can we edit that part?
Yeah, we can if you'd like us to.
We can, yeah.
No, I was just thinking about the fun acronyms that we get, like HIPAA and COBRA.
Yeah, COBRA. I always tease people, what does COBRA stand for?
No idea.
Consolidated Omnibus Budget or Omnibus Reconciliation Act. I mean, it's crazy some of the terms that they come up with and the regulations. Then you read the regulation, and there's maybe one significant thing in that regulation that really impacts everybody. The rest of it, it's just a print paper. I mean, I remember when Family Medical Leave came out. It was literally this thick.
Oh man!
Then And this was before the internet. I know I'm dating myself, but then you go back and you're like, okay, you have to apply to Congress to get a summary. So I went online, or I did go online. No, I made a phone call and I got the summary, and the summary was that big, right? So then you read through the summary and you're like, okay, this is the good stuff. I mean, they got the legalese and all that in there, but the major impact was tracking family medical leave in that 12 weeks. And then the requirements that you had to have a certain number of employees within a certain number radius. And some people didn't adhere to that, that didn't apply to them. And then they edited it to say, okay, wait a minute. Now we want you to track family medical leave by the hour. So instead of I'm taking 12 weeks off, now I can do an hour at a time for family medical leave, and you have to track it. I mean, that's a burden on employers.
Absolutely.
That if you have that number of employees, and it's a higher number of employees, right? To have to do those things. But now you have to have a system in place to track that or face fines. One of the regulations that I've talked about for years is the New Hire Reporting Act, a federally mandated thing that states have to manage. So anytime you hire an employee, it's got to be reported to the state, and the state in turn reports to the feds. Well, if you don't do that, you'll be fined. So now there's another system that we have to put in place to make sure that we're reporting that appropriately. If you're going through a huge hiring binge, you're hiring 40 or 50 or 60 employees over a 12-month time period, that could almost be a full-time job.
Absolutely.
Our system does that automatically and for our clients. So we're really trying to give time back to businesses so they can focus on their core and grow. Yeah,
that's something that we very much admire, and it's a big thing that we're all about too, because we're kind of in the same boat with our softwares, helping people make their lives less crazy so that they can focus on the things that are better for them.
Yep.
Let me throw one last question at you guys. For any business owners that are listening, what is one small change or one thing that you would recommend that they either make, or that if they're not doing, they should absolutely start doing to their HR? What would that be?
I'd say I would recommend they consult with an HR provider, whether it's Venture or another. Most companies don't charge a fee for a brief visit to kind of have an exploratory conversation to make sure that the employer is seeing the different phases of his company and seeing things appropriately. And I'd say that something a little more unique that is huge for employers is to be sure to bring to the conversation those employees that have their hands in some of these verticals or spaces of conversation, whether it's payroll, benefits. That could be completely someone different who's doing the hiring. It could be, and what I've found is things that have been going on sometimes for months or years, all of a sudden get revealed in a quick exploratory meeting when you bring everyone to the same conversation. And you realize the business owner doesn't realize that something has been going on for as long as it has. And he would not have realized that had he not bring all stakeholders in the company to the table. Now, sometimes, like in a micro company, some small companies, sometimes all of this could be just the business owner in conversation. But oftentimes, even with a small business, there are one or two individuals, may not be doing it full time, but they have their hands in one or two of these buckets. And so it's important that if someone is listening to this and they're wanting to reach out to an HR provider to have kind of a encompassing overview, that they bring those individuals with them and not be afraid that something we brought out, but consider it something, it might be cheesy, but almost like a warm blanket on a winter day, something not hostile, but something that's actually going to bring them comfort on the long game. Sorry, I went teacher mode.
No,
but
all good, man. All good.
That's the way that I want business owners to look at it, is making sure they see everything from every angle. And that is going to bring those stakeholders into those conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we like to open their eyes, understand the challenges that your people are seeing every day, and maybe the challenges some of the providers that you have now are causing you, but you don't really realize it, and you don't know that there's something better out there to really help you. Take a good look at your systems and processes and procedures and truly understand what time, effort, and energy goes in to manage the day to day as it relates to employees, or even like with y'all's system. How are they doing that manually, right? Now they use you. There's a lot that they can do with that they couldn't do in the time, that same short amount of time, right? With us, if they sit down and they take a good hard look at what they have in place, what the cost structure is, how much time's going into it, because that's money as well. Understand your employee burden, then you can really figure out, what does my cost look like? What can I do to improve? Has my health insurance gone up steadily 10% one year, 30 another year, and then another 10%? Well, that's a significant increase over a 3-year time period.
Yeah.
We're compounding that, right? Just because last year was 5%, but the previous 2 years you're not even thinking about were 25%, that can be detrimental and you don't even realize it. Take a good hard look at that once a year and truly understand what's going on with those items. And I think you'll be surprised. I think you really will. And you'll be able to find some efficiencies by using a company like ours, or maybe there's someone else that does what we do. But it's take the time every year to look at your business and truly understand what your costs are. And I think it'll change the way you do things.
Yeah, great advice, both of you guys. Really, really appreciate
Lovely.
it. If anybody wanted to learn more about Venture, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
The best way to get a hold of us is to email me at brandon.smith@vensure.com.
All right, beautiful. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes to make it easy for you guys. But Brandon, Chad, thank you guys so much for coming on here today.
Thank you guys. This is great.
Super insightful.
Very good visiting with y'all today.
Absolutely. Very much appreciate it. And hope the weather stays a little cooler in Dallas for you guys.
Me too. Hey, if it stays in double digits, I'll be happy.
That's where the bar's at. Yeah, I'm with you here in Florida. So, all right, y'all, take it easy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the Profit Roadmap. And remember, you can listen to this show on all major streaming platforms, including Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Be sure to visit our show notes at serviceautopilot.com/podcast to get the links to all topics we covered in today's show. And if you got any questions or guest recommendations, or if you want to be on the show, email us at theprofitroadmap@exploretechnologies.com. That is spelled XPLOR. Thank you.